Oh, not so solid. Well, it was solid before, and now it's flashing, so it changed. So I made a mistake. Open Space Committee meeting to order. Jeez. It's February 21st, 4 p.m. Is there anybody for courtesy of the floor? Do you want to do courtesy? No, you can come up in the discussion. You'll come up during the discussion for the Farm Bill, but then you can introduce yourself. There's no one here for courtesy of the floor. Thank you so much. Discussion regarding the implications of the 2018 Farm Bill. We're still waiting on copies. I have copies for everybody. But we have a guest. Would you like to come up to the podium, please? Jen.
Hi, my name is Jennifer Massaro. I'm with Penn State Extension. Our office is in Nazareth. So the recent changes to the Farm Bill have legalized the production of hemp. And so Penn State Extension is very much interested in how can we help our farmers do more research on what it takes to grow a quality hemp product. How do you process it? Currently it's difficult to process. It kind of clogs up your harvester, if you will. It's very tough because it's rope. So it clogs up the machine. And we're looking for how do you process it efficiently and effectively. So currently there's not a lot of processing facilities locally, and so I think one of the things that would really help the farmers is some more research on hemp itself and how do you grow it, how can it stimulate the economy, how do we come up with some sort of a processing facility, and to have hemp as an alternate potentially for our farmers who might be looking to diversify their agronomy crops for hemp. So I just thought I would throw that out there and show Penn State's support for continued research into hemp as an ag product.
Okay. Is there other states doing it already?
Research on hemp in general?
Or just growing it?
Yeah, there are. I think it's limited at this point. I know, Canada does a lot of it, obviously, so that's where, if you're doing research on hemp, that's where we've been getting the seeds currently is through Canada.
So no other states are doing it right now, in the States, that you know of?
Not that I'd have to do more research on that specifically, to find out more.
Just curious what some of the products are. I realize rope they can make out of it, but some of the other products they can market this.
Oh goodness, I should have printed out a list to bring that. There's a lot, yeah.
Yeah, clothing, rope, anything.
Clothing, rope, oils, biofuels, potentially for animal feed. Oils for feed.
Endless amounts of uses.
There's a lot. Yeah.
Yes, you can also use it for building materials. There's a lot of different research going on that too, Dale.
And it replenishes quickly, which is.
Is there any insulation value to it? I'm just kind of curious because sooner or later they're going to have a problem with fiberglass insulation. Sooner or later
they have used it for insulation. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I think that was highlighted at the farm show this year. Was interesting. They had a whole table of hemp and all the products, and I think insulation was one of them.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So one of the reasons why I asked Jen to come is because we've been working together for almost a year, going to different. We went to Lancaster to Ag Progress, and they have a hemp farm out there. Lancaster has sort of like, I guess it's research based, different techniques of growing it. And we've, Erica Shade Stark will be here in April. She is the executive director of the Industrial Hemp Council. And she has some more information on potential processing plants and how to process industrial hemp and how it can be used to stimulate the economy And so one of the things that we have talked about, Jen and I, is trying to formulate an ad hoc committee to research how we might be able to bring that here. And that's going to be one of the resolutions that comes up in April. But I did want to introduce this and have a discussion about it before. And I figured since we had nothing else on this agenda, right? It might have been a good day to do it, right?
Yeah.
So I do have some frequently asked questions, a sheet coming out that Sharon is copying right now. She's not. She is. After the copies of the other thing that are coming out. So it's all good. I think one of the exciting things about the Farm Bill is giving farmers another option to grow. And maybe you could tell us a little bit about the plight of the farmers that's been going on, like trends.
Yeah, where do I start?
I don't know,
so
but you got
I
at
guess
least 10 minutes.
Yeah, so I guess I could just talk about the dairy industry for one. You know, the price of milk has been going down, and the cost of everything is going up and up. And so the dairy farmers are exiting the industry left and right. It's pretty sad. You know, there's been a lot of support around the state trying to help them with, you know, suicide, and we've been having a lot of farmers who are really not doing well because they're losing money, and so they can't make the farm sustainable with dairy anymore. And so a lot of them are going out of the industry. We've been trying to help them with how do you diversify your products. So, okay, you're not getting a lot for fluid milk, but have you looked at turning that into yogurt or cheese or, you know, anything else that you make with milk? And so we've been doing a lot of meetings focusing on that across the whole state, trying to get them to realize that there's other things that they could do with their milk. And then, you know, a lot of them have acres and acres of land. And have you looked at growing corn, or have you looked at diversifying some of your ag products to make ends meet, to supplement what you're doing? And so, I mean, and that's just one. This past year, it affects me personally because I have horses and I have to worry about buying hay. We got so much rain this past year, there was not a consistent number of days that was dry enough for any farmers to go out and cut their hay. And if they did get in the field, it was moldy. It didn't dry out enough. So there's a shortage of hay. The corn was moldy this year because of all the rain. The soybeans were moldy. So farmers really took a hit this year. They seem to be continuing to take a hit. So anything we can do to help them to diversify in what they're growing, or to help make, you know, get them some extra income, we're all for it. So this could potentially help.
And I know it's early, probably the study for it is there like the soil quality conditions for hemp, or is it any easier to grow, or
like in Northampton versus anywhere else?
Yeah, or
I think we'd have to look into that. So they've had some success in our Lancaster, our research farm.
It does.
It grows like a weed. It grows like a weed.
I'm just saying. So the benefit of some of the farmers where they could grow it easier because the quality of the soil is not as dependent as it would be for some of the other crops.
I think it's fairly easy to grow here. I know as a research trial, they tried it at the seed farm in Lehigh County. It did not do well, though, because of the rain. But nothing did well because of the rain.
Right.
So it was just a very difficult year for farming in general, you know, for the rain standpoint. But I think in general, on a typical year, it would do very well here.
One of the things that's really interesting about industrial hemp is that it was grown here historically in this area. Moravians actually grew industrial hemp and used it within their community. And it was something that was indigenous to this area. And so I guess it was like the 1950s or something like that, when marijuana was banned, industrial hemp was as well. But the difference between marijuana and industrial hemp is in the level of THC in it. THC is the psychotropic thing that gets you high, right? Industrial hemp only has 0.3 THC in it, and that is
Like
nothing. So the industrial hemp is still on the Schedule 1, and that's what the Farm Bill did. It removed it from that so that it could be legal to grow again. And this should be a real help. The problem is that we faced is there's the permitting process, and now the Farm Bill has allowed an extension to the permitting, right, for this year. The permit fee has gone down, right?
I would have to double check on that. I'm not
Yeah,
sure.
I think it went down from $2,000 to $600. But that would be a nominal fee that we would get to then purchase seeds, put on a plot of land, and that's part of what the ad hoc committee would do, decide where best to grow it, and then how we could make this available for farmers in our community to learn from and then potentially utilize as another source of crop. And then see if we can attract potentially either a processing plant or how we could attract manufacturers who want to switch over plastic or whatever materials they're using to hemp-based products, which would increase manufacturing. When I talked to Erica, she was saying that in these processing plants, there's like 600 to 900 jobs available per plant. So then if you multiply that and look at how much is involved with manufacturing and the potential for even the slate belt, where it could potentially be grown. That would be amazing. It's also a great phytoremediator, which means that it soaks up the
Water.
well, no, the pollution in the earth. So if you have an area that's been damaged by chemicals or something like that, you could plant the hemp there. And I mean, you wouldn't use the hemp then, probably, but it would remediate that property over time. And it's very effective. So there's a lot of different uses for it. I'd like to be able to explore it more. But I really thank you, Jen, for coming. Does anybody else have any other questions for her?
Oh, yeah, so just more in the general on the Farm Bill. I think you and I discussed it at one time about, you know, supporting some of the indoor farming that you see growing in some of the urban areas and that. Is there support for that? Because, I mean, that could also be a way for some of these farmers to stabilize. It is, you know, obviously they're not going to grow corn and wheat. It's not practical inside. But some of the other, you know, spices and other items can be grown inside and, of course, require less water, less pesticide, and more stable, you know, climates.
Yeah, so in a lot of our urban areas, especially in Philadelphia, we work with them a lot on how to grow indoors and rooftop gardens and stuff like that. So we do have the knowledge base to, you know, help the farmers with that. You know, that would depend on if they had enough indoor space. They'd have to have a very large building, I think, to make enough money to supplement. But, I mean, that's something that we would be happy to work with them on if they're interested.
Bob, Mr. Warner.
Is there, I'm just curious, there's a lot of equipment involved in doing this, okay? And you're baling things that are pretty large equipment to make the hemp into a specific type product. Where are the costs, have you looked at the cost ratio to return on investment on this thing? Like where?
So I think that's what we're hoping to do this year, especially out in our research facility in Mannheim. It's a cost study, so they're going through all of that. So we're not really sure currently what they are. From what I understand, a lot of the equipment that you use today, if you're doing large agronomy types of products like corn and soybeans, you can use the same equipment. You might just need to change the actual cutting, and I don't know the word for it.
Yeah,
Front where you cut it. I'm not the expert in that. I don't know, but you might need like a different bar or something in the front.
Different
but
sizes
the
and
combine.
different baling equipment. I was just curious.
Yeah.
Also, this is out in the Lancaster, York area. You know,
Our big research farm, yeah.
They have. You know, are you familiar with Hempstead Road out there?
No,
I didn't think.
but I have a feeling it has some significance.
It does. I traveled quite a bit out there through York
Okay.
and Lancaster, and there's a place called Hempstead Manor, Hempstead Road,
Okay.
which they have equipment out there for this.
Okay,
So, just a thought.
very nice. Okay.
Thank you.
But that's another possibility, too, is that there's going to be another need for equipment and another source of potential growth in an area that hasn't probably had any growth since like the 1950s for products like that. So, John? Mr. Cusick?
Yes, thank you for coming. I think this is one of those rare issues where Ms. Zirinsky and I are in almost complete agreement.
On this day, John said.
I think there's a tremendous opportunity here on the agricultural side of things. My question really has to do with the availability of seeds. For the backyard gardener, they can go to, Home Depot or Lowe's and, pull out those packages and grow a little bit of corn or tomatoes. And then on the commercial side, the big ag, ConAg, will sell seeds to the farmers generally. I guess the question is the seed distribution pipeline. How will that be done when this is rolled out?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I'm not sure. Right now, the only place you can get the seeds it was internationally, I think,
Right.
because it was banned for growing here unless it was for research purposes. So currently, the only place you can get the seeds, typically people go to Canada to get the seeds. But now that it's legal for the industrial hemp, that's also a potential opportunity for the seed companies to start purchasing seeds and distributing seeds. But I'm not sure what that looks like.
So I guess then
Yeah.
the follow-up is, if we want to start this, that is a potential point where we might not be able to move as quickly as some people would like to get this moving.
That's not necessarily true.
If you can't get the seeds, how are you
You
gonna
can get the
gonna
seeds.
grow
You
it?
just have to order them through Canada. I think Allison, is that her name, Allison? The one that we were on through a call with? You know who I'm talking about.
I know who you're talking about.
I know, right? The name left me. So there's another woman that we were working with out in Penn State, and she was talking about where to get the seeds, and they're available in Europe and in Canada and various other places. You just have to order them and mail them. So it's not like you could go to the Home Depot and get them, but they are obtainable. And I believe she was talking about, when I talked to Erica, she was talking about different prices depending on what kind of variation of seed you get. Like some seeds you can get like a whole, poundage of seeds, and it would cost you like $100. And then other seeds are a little bit more expensive because they're a different variation. Depends on what you want to use them for, apparently.
Ms. Zirinsky, I have a question.
Go ahead.
Is there any legal impediments getting them from another country? I mean, I'm just curious. I don't know at the federal level or saying.
So
I mean, I know I can go to jail if I go to Canada and get better priced drugs, medical drugs. But,
So it used to be that you have to get the seeds and then send them back, and the DEA, right, you would have to look. You had to send your seeds out, and I believe it's through the DEA, and then they would send them back to you to make sure what kind of seeds they were, to make sure you're not doing any other kind of seeds, right? So,
Yeah, I think you had to send them to the PDA, and then you had to go
Okay.
and get them from the Pennsylvania Department of Ag.
Okay, PDA. Okay,
Yeah.
but
I'm sure that's all changing, though, now that it's...
the thing is,
Yeah.
yes, that is all changing, and so I think that we should try to be on the front end of this as it does change, so that we could be ground level when we get started on this project.
Alyssa is her name.
Alyssa, see, so close. Go ahead. Ms. Fargo Hefner, please.
I have a question that's completely unrelated, but not really. You mentioned with the dairy industry and, and the farmers suffering. I guess I'm asking, does the state or the federal have any kind of subsidies or emergency funding to help people because of things like, okay, so you have an off year, or is all that stuff cut at this point? So I wonder what's the status federally and statewide to supplement.
I think they just introduced something in the Farm Bill that passed to subsidize the dairy farmers if they had a loss. I think there's also insurance that they can purchase. The state is working on an initiative. I'm not really sure what their plans are, but I know that they are working on it and they are aware of the issue, and they're taking it very seriously.
You just
just had a great discovery here, Mr. Cusick. Amazon.com has hemp seed.
There you go.
I know, but that could be an edible product. Yes, but that's an edible product. That's not for
That's
planting.
to eat the seeds.
See,
Like sunflower
yeah,
seeds?
Yeah, like
because you can
sunflower
eat
seeds.
them
You can
because they make various.
Another way to use
But hemp is another form of protein for people who need protein. They have hemp protein powders. You can mix those in shakes, and Oh boy.
Yeah, I can try and get some more information on that and send that out to everyone if you're interested.
And there are other industries, there's, like you said, insurances, there's other supplements that are given to help, or
There's a federal
programs or
subsidy.
grants, so why would they not do that for the farming industry as well?
Yeah, they
There
do,
is.
but yeah.
There's the farm insurance.
Yeah.
Farmers.
Yeah.
And a lot of them band together like a co-op to pick it up and get
Make it
for
affordable.
But I think one of the problems with the farmers now is that they're struggling so much. And you have a farm that's been in the family for 100 or more years, and you're the farmer that might lose it because you can't keep farming the way you did, or you can't monocrop. You have to, like, what is it called now? It's not called carnival farming, but it's called like festival farming or something like that. It came up at a meeting that I was at the other day. It's a trend that's coming in where, it's not only, you can't just like farm corn. You have to plant Christmas trees, do pumpkins, do hay rides, do corn mazes, do strawberry picking, and because it has to be a
Agritourism.
year-round venture. You open up an ice cream shop on your farm so that you can have year-round business, and that's a ton of work just to keep that going all the time. And farmers are having a lot of stress. It's a lot of pressure to keep something that's been in your family for hundreds of years, or over 100 years, to keep that and maintain it and want to keep going. So I think that's part of the pressure too.
Yeah, you're right. A lot have diversified to do the agritourism like you're talking about, but that comes with risks as well. And having anybody on your farm, if they trip in the field or things like that, you have to carry a certain level of
liability.
insurance for that as well. But most farmers have been looking at second jobs to
Yeah. I mean,
to
look
keep
at Cycles.
just to keep the farm in the family. It's-
And I think overall you see these huge farms that they're all downsizing because one, so back in the day, your children all farmed, they all worked there and turned it over. Well, now it's hard to find the next generation that wants to go out there and work for 12 hours a day and do that.
Yeah.
So therefore, you end up downsizing, and you get farmers, like I said, finding a second job, and some people are getting the small farms and doing the farming as their second job. But they're not single stream anymore.
But I think Jesus. The thing is, we have to find ways to keep our farmers in Northampton County sustainable, because we do not want to lose our farms to development, lose them to other things, and we want to have them for the future. So farmland preservation is a great way to maintain this, but also giving farmers other options and continuing to educate them on how they can diversify their farms and keep them sustainable is really important. So this is just another avenue to do that.
And the personal responsibility side of we can all go to these farms and purchase it instead of getting some of these places where it's brought in from far outside and doesn't it's not in the local farm market.
Yeah, not from Amazon, right?
But you should go to your local farmer.
Yeah, buy the seeds locally. Quit doing for basil.
Buy fresh, buy local.
Buy them up the street.
They're not that far, yeah.
Do you guys still do the composting seminars? Which again has nothing to do with this, but I know they were big. Do they?
But you're
we,
here.
we do offer them, yeah.
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 There's no waste to this product either, correct? There's nothing like.
There's nothing wasted. The stalks are used, the seeds are used, the stuff, other part of it, definitely. That's not that. Bob, don't go there. I know, I see what you're doing. He's going like this. I know exactly what you're doing. Bob, that's a whole different other conversation.
I just happened to look it up under Amazon, that's all. It's interesting.
Very good.
grow your marijuana.
Grows like a weed. Yep. All right. So I've handed out this FAQ for everybody, too, in case you have any light reading you'd like to do. You can also look up the history of Moravians and industrial hemp and find a myriad of things and how it's been indigenous to this area, you know.
George
So
Washington used to grow it.
Tobacco.
George Washington did a lot of things.
From Amazon.
Bad teeth.
From Amazon.
Does anybody have any other questions for Jen? Because I don't want to keep her here any longer. Her day is already long.
Okay. Okay. No, I'm from Upper Bucks County, so Coopersburg, like Hellertown area. Oh, you too? So, oh, okay. All right. All right.
Guys are funny.
The bridges.
Really? Why?
Heller.
Because it's Hellertown. Okay. Wow, this meeting's really devolving. And then you wonder why these last so long. Hey, thank you so much, Jen.
Sure.
I really appreciate you coming. And I hope that we'll be able to work together in the future to continue this conversation. And Erica Shade Stark will be here in April, right? To further discuss the economic possibilities that industrial hemp could bring to Northampton County. And then I think we'll bring that resolution. Well, we will discuss whether or not we'll bring that up in March. If everybody's ready to, that's great. But I would like Erica to come.
Can I have a question?
Go ahead.
I mean, I know I walked a couple minutes. What's the end game on this? You mentioned resolution. What is exactly are we
Oh, the
driving
end game
towards?
is to form an ad hoc committee to discuss how the economic development for industrial hemp and the plausibility of having it here and how we can help farmers. So it would just be like a subcommittee.
Okay. I was just curious. I didn't know where we were going with it.
Right.
Okay.
That would be the end game would be ultimately having industrial hemp grown on a property, probably, so that we could research it. And
I didn't know if you were asking, we're going to do a resolution asking the executive to grow at a Call Farm or something at a county park or something.
yeah, right in Louise Moore Park, I'm sure that would go over really well. No.
We don't farm, Mr. Ackman, but
No.
we do lease farmland.
Yes.
Right. No. I mean, no, I was just curious because what the ultimate.
Well, I think that's
aim
part
it.
of the discussion too. Is what possibilities? That's part of the discussion.
Okay.
What possibilities could we envision? And that's why maybe the resolution will change a little bit, but the ad hoc committee could be part of that discussion. When you get people together who this is in like their wheelhouse to discuss, like Jen or Erica or other people in the community that have been like studying industrial hemp as farmers, I think we can really start to see what the possibilities are to envision it in Northampton County. Does that make sense?
Sure. No, yes, makes sense. I'm pro-hemp.
Well, I'm glad to see everybody's pro-hemp. Then we could just like, skip all this and like just get to it, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Again, thank you, Jen. Anybody else?
Thanks.
No? Thank you so much. So today is all about conversations and discussion. In January, we signed something, we signed forth a resolution discussing the Green New Deal and urging Congress to pass it. The Green New Deal has been in the news lately, and I don't know if everybody knows what it is, but the Green New Deal calls on Congress, or it calls on federal, state, and local agencies to enact a few policy changes. So I wanted to give everybody a copy of the Green New Deal to show them what this progressive vision for environmental sustainability is all about and how we might implement certain things. Of course, we're not going to implement everything. We're probably not going to be able to give health care for all in Northampton County. We're probably not going to be able to institute free college, right? That's not part of the thing. But there are aspects of the Green New Deal that talk about sustainability and talk about the urgency and the scale of urgency to address climate change. And part of the discussion today is I wanted to open it up to how is it that we could become a more sustainable Northampton County and use more green energy and more green policies, kind of like Bethlehem City did with their climate action plan.
What did Bethlehem?
Go.
What did Bethlehem City do for their climate action plan?
So they had
Just a couple examples.
Okay, so one of the climate action agendas for Bethlehem was to go 100% renewable, right? They did this through a third-party provider, okay? So all of their city-owned properties are going to have a third-party provider that sources their energy from 100% sustainable energy, meaning like solar or wind, okay? That would be one initiative that we could potentially do. There's a lot of, so Northampton County Community College also did that. I think Lehigh might have also done that as well. So that's one initiative to say that we are committed to sustainability and we're sourcing through 100%. That's one of the aspects of the Green New Deal is 100% renewable energy by a certain period of time, like 2030. So that would be a very easy thing to do. Part of it is like creating jobs and urban renewal and zero waste. How is it that we can get to zero waste? How is it that we can use our recycling programs more efficiently? You know, because right now we have the single stream recycling, and that's been problematic because most of our recycling now goes to a landfill. Any bit that's tainted, right, contaminates the whole lot, and so they don't recycle it. China is giving us back our recycling. So a lot of these products are going into landfills and not actually getting recycled. Does that make sense? Okay.
So this group project that we've approved
That's
and
really
we're
great.
waiting. So that could be like step one.
That could be step
right?
one.
Creates jobs and also does the bit of renewable piece, right?
Right.
When I refer to this group project, I'm referring to the auger into the river and
I know.
hydro.
The
Yes.
Archimedes screw. Yes,
Yes.
the hydro power plant, which is really
So-
important.
so-
But how can we do other things like that? I mean, I think, what is her name? Holly Ottinger. She's coming in, what is it, March 7th? And she's going to talk about CPACE, which is a new program. It's not that new, but it's in the state.
The CPACE is a good program.
Yeah, so
Yes.
CPACE is the Property Assessed Clean Energy Program that allows commercial nonprofit and
It
agricultural
gives loans
areas
for the-
to have, yes, loans for their renewable
And
energy
it runs
projects.
it through the tax, right.
Right, so that could be one of the initiatives that we put
Saving
through.
energy, creating jobs, and sure.
Yeah, which is really important because part of the reason why people don't necessarily access clean energy is because of A, the upfront cost and not having the money to, front for it, but also not having access to the types of loans that they need for that. So the CPACE program would allow that people to put up these major projects that we don't necessarily see here in the county.
Is there and it might be the case already, but is it permissible to live off the grid in Northampton County? So, because there are some places, so like
Some places you can.
There's some municipalities in that down in Florida that people were very willing to be, out on their own, and then they got fined for not hooking up to the electrical and
Yes.
sewer system, which.
So that's been, I think, a point of contention. I don't know anybody who's been able to live off the grid unless their house does not necessarily have a line directly to it. Like there's some cabins in, like Potter Cabin or something like that don't have electricity. I'm sure they would be allowed off the grid. But if I would try to interconnect a residential property and say they would like to go off grid, like in Bethlehem Township, I don't think that's happening. Now, one of the things with the climate action plan is that in Bethlehem City is that they set goals and standards. So how much renewable energy could we say the county will not generate but consume by 2030 or something like that? So that's part of the goal setting is how much waste reduction, how much difference can we make by implementing policies or procedures that help the recycling process, or maybe separate recycling into glass and cans and incentivize it like it used to be. You know, like when I was a kid, people would be collecting aluminum cans, and you would go to the recycling center and drop them off and get money.
Well, when New
We do
York
not
does it, they'll do that for 5 cents a piece, which makes it, encourages people to do it.
Right. So what can we do to incentivize things like that? So I just want to have I just wanted to have a conversation about that. We probably all need to read the new Green Deal a little bit more and think about how we can incentivize a sustainable future and offer benchmarks for ourselves in Northampton County to achieve.
Can I ask a question?
Go
I'm
ahead.
just curious. Because I hear it a lot. There's been a lot of Washington about this, and of course you're going to get the back and forth of people defining what it is who like it, what it is those who don't like it, and setting the goals. I think, from my perspective, we really need, one would be selling the positives of it, not just in a global sense of we're going to save the planet, or we're going to, but how can this benefit me or you? Because ultimately, human beings want to know what's in it for me.
What's in it for me?
What's going to work? Now, Mr. Dietz is talking, and you mentioned too. I still can vividly remember collecting bottles, because you take them and it was glass. You got 5 cents. That was built into the price, but things were cheaper then. But you would take glass. So we automatically were recycling without being told to recycle, because I made money. And then we came along with plastic, and for all the benefits of plastic and aluminum foil and things like that, there were the downsides that sometimes occurred. And to get people, what you're saying basically is almost to return to a pre-plastic economy in some ways. And I think marketing means so much. I think when people are told, here's a goal, we're going to do this, they feel you're telling me what to do, I'm already against it. I think it's going to take a lot of marketing and understanding. If you say to people, remember we used glass, and we'd get money back when we returned it. And I don't know, I don't have the answer. I'm just saying it's going to be a tough fight, and I think it's going to take some good marketing. I think we can set goals, but it's how are we going to get to the goals? I mean, what's the game plan? I mean, to say we're going to pass law that's going to force people to do A, B, and C, I don't see the political will to do that.
Well, we're not passing any laws.
No, we're not.
But
Well, isn't that the ultimate goal eventually, maybe?
the ultimate goal would to be set standards.
And those are laws.
Regardless of, we'd have to find a plan. That's why Bethlehem has a climate action plan.
Yeah.
So the plan.
But they're all the way down here with that, aren't they?
Well, yeah, but Northampton County could have a plan. We could have a plan to say that by 2030, every building, every county-owned property will be 100% renewable energy. How do we want to get there? Do we want a third-party source that? Do we want to install solar panels somewhere? Do we want to put a wind farm up? We already have the Archimedes screw, right? So how is it that we can get to sustainability? How is it that we'll implement composting at every county-owned property or something like that where they serve food? So
No, I'm not
just trying
opposed.
to,
I'm not opposed
get
to
that.
the end result. I guess, I'm wondering, for example, when you say, "Here's what we would do by such and such," and I realize this is what you said. We want to throw this around.
Right.
I could say I have a goal, and my goal is I'm going to dunk the basketball 3 times before the end of the first quarter. I can try as much as I want. I'm not going to dunk any basketball anytime soon. So my goal is already unrealistic. No matter how hard I work, I'm never going to get that basketball up 10 feet. So I guess the thing I'm saying is when we do goals, to just be aware of not setting ourselves up for failure. We'll take small steps to reach that ultimate goal. And I know what you want to do, and I think that the younger generation of all stripes is on board with what you're talking about. I talk to the young people, and they're sick and tired of boomers, and they feel we destroyed the world and everything. And I try to tell them that we were psychologically damaged from the 50s and 60s, but they don't want to hear it. So the thing, and hemp, and getting bad hemp. But the thing is, I think change is going to come. But again, I just am curious, as I've heard this debate on television, watching these guys go back and forth, it almost comes down to, you want to socialize my life? No, I'm going to make your life better. You don't realize it. And it's like the person in the middle is like...
Yeah, but we also have goals that Governor Wolf set, right? So he has an executive order that says he wants to be at, 40% renewable energy by 2030.
Okay. Yeah, no,
and
benchmarks are
80% by
fine.
2050, right? So those are benchmarks and goals that we could achieve. Obviously, in the county, we're only going to be able to achieve it on the county level and where we have jurisdiction, right? So it's not something, it's just like the plastic ban. The making the resolution can't necessarily enforce it within the municipalities, but we can set the goal and the agenda for Northampton County and implement it here, right?
Yeah, I'm just wondering, like, for example, in Northampton County, I guess you're saying you want to have a subcommittee because you're going to have to talk to the administration to get a sense of what exactly can you do in the county. I mean, the end, again, I go to end game, but the end game, there's the broad sense of we'd like to recommend change, we'd like to see change come about, and then in the county, we want to set goals within the county. What is it exactly that we would be able to do? And I'm sure that's going to take an involved conversation with the administration and amongst ourselves.
Well, we're starting it today.
All right.
Yeah,
I'm sure it's not going to happen overnight. Sorry.
That's no. I guess
Mr. D. Mr. D.
I'd like to say just almost separate, what our goals are as the county, as entity, as our energy consumption and that versus what we're going to make every single other resident in the county do.
Well, I don't even know if we could do that.
Well, that's what I'm saying, though. So, so a goal of like the whole county, is energy independent. The effects it is on middle class families that are struggling, you're going to say you have to put this solar panel on, or all the new homes. You now make this unaffordable.
That's not exactly what I'm saying. So I don't think that we have any power to force change on individual residents. But I think that we could put things in municipalities. I definitely want to.
I'm not raising my hand.
Would the executive like to speak?
I think he had a comment he wanted to make.
Did you have a comment, or are you just like, no? What? You could jump in at any time. Do you have a question? Do you have a comment?
Yeah, I want to applaud you for having
Look, I'm trying hard.
for having this conversation, because Mr. Heckman's right. We should applaud the city of Bethlehem, for example, for having goals. Goals are wonderful, and they also advance the conversation of conservation and renewable energy down the field. But see, you're here. You're actually doing stuff. It's not a matter of simply passing a resolution that calls on people after some of us are dead to do something, right? You're putting solar panels on the new forensic center. That place is going to be powered by the sun. That's a real concrete goal. So that's what I think we ought to be talking about. We ought to tell folks, hey, not only do we have goals, we're doing it.
Right.
We're getting it done. Also, council authorized the budgeting of up to $1.5 million to support the potential grant for the small-scale hydroelectric. And when 2 of the screws are done, they will produce enough energy to power this entire campus, right? So that's a real-life thing that we're potentially in the position to do. Now, back to Mr. Heckman's point, that question will be the price point. You know, at what price are we willing to buy that power back?
Right.
And if they get a significant enough grant, there is the potential to use our match, which it will be in the form of a loan, essentially, to buy that power, which is entirely from a natural source.
Right.
So
That's generated locally.
which is huge, right?
Right.
And so I think you're on the right track. I think you just need to keep talking about it, and we of course are we're not opposed to working to establish goals for county government.
Right.
But we also have to understand we heat some big buildings like Graysdale.
Yeah, that
the
aren't necessarily efficient.
natural gas and oil are going to be part of our lives for a while. That's just something that we have to be honest about. And the other thing we need to be honest about, at least as long as I'm executive, is we're going to have to watch the spread between the cost of renewable power and natural gas, for example. Because we, as committed as I am to leading by example, because really that's what we're doing here, right? We're in our own little piece of the world, we're leading by example, like with the conversation about hemp. We also need to be mindful of our taxpayers. And if we're paying, if we're paying 5.5 cents per kilowatt hour for our electricity now, we can't pay 9. But maybe we can pay 6 or 7 for the renewable source, right? But that'll be an important debate to have if and when that comes about, and that will be some heavy lifting.
I don't doubt that.
That was my comment.
Miss Fargo Hefner.
I don't know how to say this, so I'm just going to throw it out there. I think that this is not yet the forum to have this conversation. Like, I agree with what he said, and I think that we do have it in little ways, specifically with each project. But I think it would be easier if there is another subgroup or a work group to be able to explore the where, the how. Do you know what I mean? To look at the bigger picture and infuse it in and present that. Now, hear that I'm not saying no.
No, that's fine.
I'm saying I think a better way to present it is because it's a big task. And so what are the areas that we could put it in the county? Where are the needs? Where are the deficits? What could we, and the goals? And I think that might be a better way to fuel that conversation.
And just to reflect upon that, there are other places we can do solar in this county.
Oh, yeah.
And we've already begun to explore those possibilities.
So I'm just making a suggestion as to how to look at it, because it's a big scope, and I think that it deserves attention. And I don't
doubt that.
How do you get to the attention, and how do you get to the parts of it?
That I'm not sure of. But that's part of this conversation. And it's also part of the next agenda item as well.
Tara, if I may.
Mr.
I'm
Cusack.
sorry.
Yeah, just two quick comments.
Thank you.
There's been a lot of stuff that you hear in the news, and I'm just paging through this. It isn't as crazy as some people say it is.
No, it's not. We're
there-
not sequestering cow
there are-
farts and preventing you from eating beef.
And there are, well, specifically as I page through this, I see two places where the county can act. One is, a few years ago, we adopted the Livable Landscapes Plan, and that addresses some of these things about wetlands and water. And so we could, act on that piece. And the other part that particularly drew my attention, and this has been something we've been spending money on and off, is the brownfield and hazardous sites restoration. We've got this history of old industrial sites located throughout this county that are very difficult to redevelop. And that piece more fits with the Department of Community and Economic Development than this one. So, maybe we could have them come and address that piece as part of your agenda here. So that's something that I've favored. But the problem that I always see is we always love to have people come in and give a study, and we give them a $25,000 check. We get a report, but the sites still remain undeveloped. So I think that what we need to do is put some of these into action and ask what can we attract to those sites realistically, and warehouses are actually attractive uses for those old industrial sites. As much as people hate them,
Yeah, but I'd rather
there
put
is
a
a
warehouse where there exists something now, right, than use a greenfield to establish another warehouse. You know what I mean? That site's already used, it's already tainted or whatever. Keep the green fields green.
And Mr. Cusick's absolutely right with his point about brownfields, if you will, or polluted industrial sites. The tire pile is an excellent example of that in Wind Gap. County Council, along with DEP and EPA, have remediated that site to the point where they're now beginning to develop it. So that's exactly to your point, and I think that the Department of Community and Economic Development will continue to bring County Council those kinds of ideas where they appear. But remember, the most important thing you have, and it is a part of our functioning here every day, preserving farmland. If you preserve farmland, there aren't houses or warehouses on it. A lot less electricity is used on a farm than in a warehouse or in a housing development. Your open space, the more open space you have, the less electricity you need to use, and your environmentally sensitive land, the more green spaces you put aside, the less electricity we'll use.
Can I,
Go ahead.
Oh, no, I just want to say,
Council does a great job at that, by the way,
What?
putting all that land aside.
I just wanted to say, yeah, and I, you know, that I think this is a good idea, a great idea. Actually, I agree with science. There's no question we have to change. We should change our ways. The whole world has to grow up a little bit and stop arguing over some silly things. But again, I guess I push on some of these, and I'll go back because I want to. When I used to come up with things, or I'd say something, I'd say to people, go after it. Rip it apart. Lord knows my friends, because Lord knows the people that aren't friendly are going to tear it apart. So, in other words, tell me where you see problems with this or where there could be. So if I sound at times like I'm pushing back, it's because we're here talking and it's very collegial, but people will push back. We've become very accustomed to a throwaway way of life. We're used. You talk about paper bags. We're convenience oriented. Everything is convenience. It's a hard pill to swallow for people to especially if somebody can make hay by saying that there's an ulterior motive other than just wanting to change the way we do things because it's probably better for everybody. So I agree with you, and I think a suggestion that, yeah, I think there's where economic development and environmental, something on a subcommittee basis probably would be a good way to go about it.
Well, I think it does.
That's all
It
I
goes a
have.
long way to end that, or to help the argument that the environmental preservation, conservation, and sustainability don't necessarily have to be antagonistic to job creation. That we can have job creation and value sustainability, and we can do it through sustainability. Because so often we have jobs pitted against environmental preservation, or jobs that are not necessarily environmentally sound projects, but are justified as job creators. I think that we could do that through sustainability and through environmental projects, and I think it's necessary going into the future. This initiative, this Green New Deal, isn't just something that's coming down from the federal government. It's a call for all levels of government to initiate this kind of sustainability and economic development. That's why I brought up the hemp in the same argument, because I think that's a way that we can achieve some sustainability and growth and bring economic development, new economic development in different industries to Northampton County.
And that's the good part. See, that's the heavy lifting. The overall plan is great, and there's some people that live on overall plans. I know when I was doing great at Human Services, there are people who come in and they'd say, here's how you can fix everything. And we give them $25,000 or something like that, So, and I'd say, well, how would you implement it? I don't do that. I just tell you how to do it. And then they take their check and they run. So what they did was a success. If it doesn't happen, it's because we didn't implement it right. But you have two labor leaders sitting in here.
Mm-hmm.
It's that marriage that has to be applied, and that heavy lifting, the detail work of making it work, that somehow this does work with working men and women, and that it's not something that's going to get them out of jobs. It's actually something that's going to create jobs. So I think that is the heavy task, because there are those, as you know, who will say, everything you're doing, you just want to get rid of this, you want to get rid of that, people are going to be out of jobs. So it is a tough job. It's just going to be a very difficult sell. It's as good as it is, it's going to be hard. But you're already starting. People like you are willing to do the hard work of lifting. Some people out there just want to do the preaching, and I think that's where the problem is.
Yeah, so kind of back to so I think that the heavy lifting on it, like just take for example like solar panels, is convincing people to want to do it themselves, because that's what keeps it cost effective. It is if there's a market out there, people then it's competition for it. If you want it to be expensive, is mandate everyone to have it, because then the solar panels or whatever industry it is that you're talking about, they don't need to compete for it because everyone has to have it.
Yeah.
So I mean, so that's but if you can motivate the people to lead the charge for it or want it, all these other companies, a company that produces something else will see the value in switching over to that and find more economical or cheaper ways to develop panels and mass produce them or whatever.
Right.
Yeah, and to kind of follow up what Mr. Dietz had just said, I think, any time you try to make change with groups of people, I found it very difficult, and I think it's very difficult to tell people you need to change. They have to have buy-in, and I think on a county level, that's what we can kind of do by educating people, doing this, talking about it, passing resolutions that say we think this is a good idea, and lead by example. And I really think that's the starting, and that's where it'll be successful. If we can get the buy-in by people through education and lead by example. And I think we're starting to do that or have been doing that as a county council.
Go ahead, Mr. Mickey.
Just to follow up, and the Alertas, I know there's some good things about Alerta. I wanted a little bit more wage-sustaining projects in
Right.
Alertas. They came at us pretty quick in the beginning when we first started. I think the brownfield up around Portland power plant, that's Alerta, so that will attract business to come in and get a tax break, and at least it's a brownfield or whatever. I don't know if all of that's brownfield up there or not, but I think a lot of it is around the power plant. We did one in Bethlehem too, actually, and that's a brownfield. That was the old Bethlehem Steel over there, and then one in Easton. I'm not sure if the one in Easton was a brownfield, but my point is we are doing some of this stuff already. We really the solar panels on the new building and the screw project, we are doing a lot of the stuff already. You know what I mean? We actually are. But I think you said someone's coming in to address us in
April.
And on the
Industrial hemp.
no, I'm talking about the energy audit stuff. For
CPACE, yeah, she's coming
CPACE.
March
So
7th,
back to
Holly.
CPACE. CPACE, I think I don't think that's approved yet. It's
No,
still
it's not. We
gotta
have to
they gotta
approve
work
that.
the bugs out yet. But when that hits, I think that's gonna take off.
I think it
And-
was approved at the state level in July of 2018, but I think each individual county has to implement it.
I still think the state has to work something out yet.
Oh,
I think
okay.
they're
Well,
still
she's
in the
gonna come
draft
in-
version.
Right, she's gonna come in.
But when that goes,
Holly.
that's
March 7th.
that's something that's in it. It's about the
Right.
same thing. It's actually identifying the.
I'm going. I know. Look,
It's going to identify the
I'm getting the
the
stink
need
eye
for
over
the
here from Lori.
for the where the deficiencies are and the energy's just escaping, and then it's going to create jobs to put that back together.
Oh, God.
I have yet to give anybody's stink eye in this room.
Okay.
Okay, that's all.
Listen,
Thank you.
I want to thank you. And my agenda in setting goals is just to be consciously aware of what we're doing and to, with intention, implement these things. We could say, oh yeah, we're doing these things, but when you have goals and you're specific in what you're trying to achieve, then your actions become more focused and you could see where it is that you have room to grow and how much you have achieved. You know what I mean? So just think about that. So last on the list is the discussion regarding the renaming of the committee. This is part of what I had discussed with Brian Cope. He is not here today to discuss this, so I'm not sure how far this conversation will go, but the scope of the Open Space Committee, when you just call it open space and parks and open space, it doesn't really necessarily encompass all that there is to do. So the question is, do we have a subcommittee, another subcommittee, or do we rename the committee? One of the goals, or one of the things that we wanted to achieve through this committee, and Brian would like to be part of, and I don't mean to speak for him because he can speak when he's here, but we talked about conservation, energy, and land use as something to either have as another committee or to rename this current committee as that, because it encompasses everything. Parks go into that, conservation, open space, farmland, all that goes into conservation. And now with this added component of trying to be conscious of energy, the production, and how we're going to implement it in the county, and how we're going to use land, I think that's all something very important. So renaming the committee might be plausible unless you think that we need a separate subcommittee as was discussed before.
Do you have an idea of what you'd like the committee to be called?
Yeah, conservation, energy, and land use.
Well, Parks and Open Space covers both conservation and land use, wouldn't it?
But it doesn't necessarily cover energy, and it doesn't necessarily cover land use in the way that we want to talk about. Like you have landfills, compost centers, recycling centers. Those things are part of land use too. And how it is that we're going to introduce this industrial hemp in part of our land use as well. And I think it's a different conversation. I think at the CCAP level, I'm on the Environment, Energy, and Land Use Committee, and I think that what we encompass there is that sort of umbrella, talking about, you know, the recycling, the energy, the conservation, the land use, and how to develop energy. I mean, that was one of the conversations that we had.
Personally, I think that we're not obligated by the charter to call these things anything we want. I mean, I wouldn't have a problem calling it what you just said and going from there, but I mean, that's something maybe everyone wants to give some thought to.
Yeah, if you want to just parallel the CCAP committee structure, I don't have a problem with that. Go ahead. If you want to call it energy, environment, and land use would be fine.
Would that still include then Parks and Open Space as part of that?
Well, that's part of land use. It's
All
part
right,
of conversation.
okay, no. All right, fine. So that would take the place. I don't have a problem with that.
Does it?
No.
Does it
I guess you could have a vote if you wanted.
Does it add?
I don't think you need to.
Does it add any scope or?
It adds the scope of energy. It adds the scope of the recycling being subsumed under this, so that maybe we can generate some initiatives. And I don't know exactly how that would affect everything, because I know that we do have, you know, a recycling coordinator and a solid waste advisory council. You know, we do have that, but how is it that we can initiate things here in this conversation, in this forum, from the county level down? So I just wanted to bring that to your attention. I know that we have another meeting at 5 o'clock, so if we can resolve this at another time.
Why don't we just do it this way? I'll make a motion that we recommend to change the name of the committee from Parks and Open Space to Energy, Environment, and Land Use.
I second the motion, and we don't have to do it. We can vote on it tonight if you want. I don't see.
I don't
say
either.
change it.
I support it. I'm not on the committee, but I think it's a good.
You're mirroring CCAP, so it doesn't.
Yeah.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
More than one.
Any other, if there's nothing else, I'd like to adjourn this meeting.
Over.
We got a
Okay.
second, we
We
got a
have 5
first,
minutes.
and we're done.
I'd like
We're
to
out.
take 3 minutes, because I lost it. You want 5? Linda wants 5.
Well, they need
Oh,
5.
5 to turn off, so we'll resume in 5 minutes.
Got it.